Welcome back to another edition of Intelligence, bringing you knowledge with the power to change. I'm your host, Brendan Dunn. We have an awesome show set up today. We're going to be talking about economics, entrepreneurship, all the things that you people, black people, need to know to make your lives a little bit financially better. We also are going to be talking about a whole host of current event topics, everywhere from sex robots to did Bert and Ernie really get down? To the Brett Kavanaugh situation. So let's go ahead and get started. Starting over here with Mr. Damon Parrish, our legal resident. How are you, Damon?
I'm tired, but I'm good, and I'm here.
You know what? We appreciate you coming every single week.
But one.
All right, now we have a special guest today, Tristan Sutton. He is a marketing strategist, brand manager, and social media expert. How are you, Tristan?
Blessed and highly favored.
Man, you know what? Ain't God good today?
All the time.
All the time. Well, are you excited to be here, Tristan?
I am.
Well, we're going to make it right.
Started off right.
We're about to rock in the socket today. Next, we have the tech guru himself, Charles Sherrod Jr. How are you, Charles?
I'm back. White people, we're here for y'all, too.
Charles, it's been so long since I saw you. I think that you went bald on me.
I mean, you know.
It is what it is.
What it is.
It is what it is. All right. Next, we have the beautiful Ella Russell.
Hey, what's going on?
Man, I'm excited to have you here because I smelled some deliciousness as you walked in, and
That's my water burger.
like, it was like heaven. Because Ella is the owner of E-Doublicious Treats. She is a small business owner here in the Houston area, and we are excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And last but not least, Dr. Rod Singleton himself.
What's up, man?
How you doing, man?
Chilling.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump right on into this. Starting with the sex robots that I was just telling the viewers about. So there's a company out in Toronto that's planning on moving into the Texas industry. People in Houston are really upset, saying, hell no, we won't go quietly into this robotics night. They believe that this is amoral, immoral, and
Demoral.
and the most immoral thing that you could think of in bringing in these sex robots. I'm of the opinion, I don't understand why we continue to make sex so taboo, especially for people consensually having sex. And it's not even people at this point. It's
right.
automatons and humans. Why can't we let sleeping dogs lie?
Man,
What you got to say, Rod?
I'm just saying, man, live and let live, man. There's no victim in this. I agree with you, Brendan. Again, it's like number fourth of the times we agree.
We on a little roll, though.
Yeah, man. We live in the Bible Belt. Matter of fact, we live in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. So.
I don't know if that's true, but all right.
Pretty much.
I don't know if that's true, but all right.
What don't you think is true?
I mean, I don't think we live in the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, but I agree to an extent. Live and let live. I do see both sides of the issue with having a place where you go to purely to have sex, even if it is with a robot or even if it is a form of masturbation like that. I see the issue with that. I have no problem with it at home, but I can understand the problem with having to go someplace to have sex with a doll and all that comes with that. I recognize.
How about a hotel?
I mean, so it's yours though. Like if you go to a hotel, you take your doll to a hotel, that's fine. But if you go to like the sex doll spot and have a few glasses of
This
martini,
sounds pretty arbitrary. I mean, if
So it's a spot. It's not something like you order online.
No, you go to the it's a robot sex brothel.
robotic brothel.
So you go in there and say, "Can I have the number 3 with a side of oil?" And you go do your thing.
Like your haircut. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the real question is, are they going to have group when they first open?
Tristan, that's a good question because I don't know if I want to have Groupon sex.
And I don't think
Like, it's just something about saying, "Can I get a discount on this robot for JJ?" that makes me feel a little bit more.
So my question is like, so is this like community robot? Is she being sterilized in between visits?
Yes, good.
Like what's going on? Like
I don't
OSHA's, I'm sure OSHA and all the other agencies that the FDA, whoever, there's gonna be some kind of agency that's gonna be involved in.
pure
I doubt
They're gonna get like a sticker on the door to say grade A.
I doubt it. Yeah.
What do you
You
doubt?
gonna slip and slide?
I doubt there's going to be any like guidelines, rules, checks, and balances on it.
There has to be. You can
Because somebody, you know how dudes do. Y'all go and talk.
Ma'am.
So y'all gonna be like, yeah, that number 3 go hard. So everybody gonna be coming in for number 3, and I promise you, they're not gonna be like cleaning her up in between visits.
I agree.
Is this more,
They're not.
Is this more disgraceful
I mean-
than y'all talking about dildos?
It's the same thing. It's a body attached to a dildo.
Okay.
It's not really a difference.
you really don't think that they gonna rub it down every time somebody
Absolutely
gets done?
not. Absolutely not.
And if they did, it'd probably just be like with water.
Yeah,
No.
they're not gonna
I
have
think
like
at
a
least-
whole.
I think at least give it
So,
Purell.
but you guys trust the utensils at a
Purell?
restaurant, but you won't trust the.
Tristan said they're gonna give it Purell, so it's gonna give an antibacterial
Purell
cream.
has alcohol in it, so it is what it is.
They're not, you know, dry
Let me
now.
ask you this: how do normal prostitutes clean up between customers?
Is anybody even
How well
concerned
do they do?
how they clean up in between?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want
you don't want
one with flies.
Sir, you're already with a prostitute, so
So what?
I mean,
Every person is a
So-
prostitute. The difference between a prostitute and you is that you got paid in dollar bills before the transaction, knowing that it was specifically for sex. There is no other difference between any of us and a prostitute.
And they give you much less problems after you have sex. You pay them to leave.
oh,
You don't pay them to have sex.
That's my question, because the people I hear coming out opposed to this would be opposed to any brothel, any kind of sex work. So I think if you're opposed to that on some kind of moral stance, because I heard, didn't hear, but I saw somebody refer to this as a rapist training place. No, the people that were opposed were saying this is something that's going to train people to dehumanize sex, and they're doing it with a robot. They can do anything they want, so that's going to make them think that they can do anything with people.
is
so
it
if you're
because the
of that
robot is
viewpoint,
unresponsive?
maybe so.
Well, look, rapists gonna rape regardless. Like, there's no such thing as a training ground for a rapist.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but I'm
the
saying that's what
internet
they're
is
saying.
a training
But
ground
no,
for
you gotta
rapists.
they have to substantiate. I don't value every opinion just for the sake of value. They have to substantiate that. That's ridiculous.
all right, but they are true when they say it does dehumanize sex because you're having sex with a non-human, a piece of plastic. That's a true
Are
statement.
those people similarly opposed to dildos? Is what I'm asking.
I have not used a dildo, but I'm just saying, it
Come
is
on,
true,
Damon,
and then-
be honest with us.
That was last week's episode. That was last week.
Last week you were honest with us.
Yes,
Damon,
this
Oh,
week
okay,
I
this
lied.
week you
This
got
is
all
a safe
lies.
space.
It is not a safe space.
Well,
It's a safe lie.
Look, you know what else is not safe for consumption? The fact that Sesame Street has, in a war with one of its story writers, one of the writers says that Bert and Ernie were designed to be homosexual together in a house, alone, just the two of them. Sesame Street has since made the argument and said, no, these were just two homies living it up as a co-inhabitants of 111 Sesame Street Boulevard. I've heard the rumors, and now my childhood is in danger of being ruined.
Why?
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 Because
What's wrong with it?
well, there's nothing wrong with homosexuality.
Homophobic. That's why.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, for me, you set it up as one thing in my life, and now I have to go back and reevaluate everything that Bert and Ernie said. Kind of like with Frank Ocean, all his songs. I'm like,
Are you kidding me? So what about
like
Luther?
Luther.
and Freddie
I was just
Jackson?
about to say Luther
Luther and
too.
Freddie Jackson singing to each other their whole career.
Dude, Luther
Freddie
still
Jackson?
jams regardless. You're not gonna be
Exactly.
like, oh, because this house was not a home for Freddie.
No, because like when
Are you just saying
Luther
about R.
started,
Kelly?
Say what about R. Kelly?
That he still jams?
Well, I
that's
Thinking
don't.
about little
R.
girls.
Kelly committed a crime.
I don't like. I mean, for whatever reason, I'm usually able to disconnect the person from their art. But for whatever reason, like when R. Kelly comes on, I just can't listen to it. So, and even though there hasn't been any like factual information,
Sure they are.
well, I don't want to say factual. I'm saying like he hasn't been, I guess, like convicted of a crime.
Yeah, it hasn't been
It still
adjudicated in
gives
court.
me like. It still makes me feel away when I hear his music now. So, I don't know. I think it's different.
look, when Luther, it made me start to question when Luther started talking about Dance With My Father again. I started thinking, well, was he talking about his real father or was he talking about Daddy?
Daddy?
And then was he really mean his Zaddy? Just like Dance With Zaddy
I'm not gonna
again.
let you sit
Now-
here and
now
talk
I'm
crazy
wondering.
about one of the greatest vocalists in history.
I'm not saying
Why
it
you-
wasn't
Trying to do
it wasn't
like
vocal.
I
that,
don't
man.
understand. Like, why does that even matter?
Because
You know
I
what
don't
mean?
want to be talking about Dance With My Zaddy again.
But is
I
that
just
what
don't
you?
wanna do
But
it.
That's not
is
what
that
you
what
feel.
you
Love
feel
is-
when
love
you
is
sing
love,
it?
man.
Is that what you feel when you sing it?
No. If you
Not
dancing with
before.
your father, keep dancing with your father. Play that
Right.
Luther.
You just don't want to give up Luther.
I'm never.
I'm not
gonna
gonna give up. Luther is a great,
Listen.
one of the best vocalists, male vocalists ever to
Listen,
come
man.
out. I'm not knocking anything about him.
Songs are about time and place and feeling. If I felt the way if Luther was feeling that way about the brother with the dreads, and I was feeling that way about my first love, then that's just what it is.
Right.
I don't care nothing about what he.
And
was
the
doing.
whole premise is ridiculous for this reason. Female singers sing about the opposite sex all the time. And
All the time.
And we sing the songs with the same pronouns or switch the pronouns. We know who they're singing to, another man, but we don't feel like that. So why is this any different? That's homophobia, bro.
Well, what is different is Rice offering full scholarships for families with incomes under $130,000.
That's awesome.
This is like you said, this is awesome, amazing news.
But you got to
They
accept
are
it first.
so for families with an income between 130 and 200,000 will receive scholarships covering at least half of their tuition. So they are rolling out the red carpet financially for people saying we want you to come out here. Is this something that they are specifically able to do because they have the endowment for, or is this something that other institutions should really be trying to hunt for? I don't know. I don't even know if this is financially savvy for an institution to do. I mean, what do you think about that, Tristan?
I think you got to look at what are the other requisites, though. You know, what else are they requiring for you to qualify for that stipend or that funding? So, is it still like kind of like you said, get accepted just like everyone else, or you just don't make enough money and we're taking care of it? So, I'd be curious about that.
Well, you know, so Rice has one of the toughest admission requirements, right? That's not going to change. So what they're doing is they're competing with UT, Harvard, Stanford, or what have you. What Rice does not have is, besides Harvard, besides Ivy League, what Rice does not have is like a good athletics program. They have no draw. Outside of Houston, they don't have a draw, right? And so now you're competing with those schools like a Stanford, who Rice, in my opinion, is on par with.
No, they're not.
But you offer them something more than like we have sports, is we have a chance for you to come here and graduate without a crap ton of student loan debt, and that's important. Two, I think that there's an education bubble that's about to bust. I think that there's too many schools, and we've oversold the value of a college degree, and now we're teaching people, hey, maybe we don't need these college degrees, maybe a trade school. So you have an educational bust that's about to happen, and maybe Rice sees that, and is like, well, let's get ahead of it. Let's keep our enrollment at least at a certain point, and maybe we can get through this bust somehow, and justify why we have all these buildings, all these curriculum with not enough students.
The question is it just for undergrad?
I think that it is for. I didn't. So the article that I read didn't specify. I'm going to assume that most of these things are probably geared towards undergraduate students. As a matter of fact, they also said that for household incomes with less than $65,000, they'll be getting even more support, not just tuition, but all the mandatory fees plus room and board. So I would assume that with that kind of scale, it's probably geared towards undergraduate.
Because that could make it a
students.
smart play for them. Because schools like Rice, those schools probably see a larger number of their students go on to postdoc studies. So if you got somebody locked in, right, you gave them that help on the first one, and they're moving on to a master's PhD program, and you're looking at the level of student that you're probably getting out of Rice when they're coming back to give money and they create endowments. Like, you kind of helping yourself in that regard. So I think it's good.
And what are they including in the tuition is the other question. But the other point is that the contention that this makes them competitive with like a Harvard or other, like a Stanford.
I said not Harvard, but Stanford for sure.
But even a Stanford,
USC.
Stanford is the most that school is the hardest to get into in America. Number one, it has the lowest acceptance rate in the country. It surpassed Harvard and Yale a long time ago. And my thing is with a lot of these Ivy League schools, they already offer. They don't offer merit-based scholarships. They offer need-based scholarships already anyway. So they're behind the curve on that aspect. So they're not. That doesn't make them more competitive with the higher tier schools.
But it makes them competitive. It does. They're just playing catch up. You're right. Harvard's had the same. At least I know Harvard's had the same thing for years. But it wasn't a tailored program like Rice's. It wasn't. Hey, if you make this much, you get this much. If you make this much, you get this much. It was all or nothing. Either you're poor and we got you, or you can meet the financial requirement and you're on your own with this $100,000, $200,000 per year debt. So what this does is it puts Rice on a playing field, and I think Rice does compete or is trying to compete with USC, with Stanford, with Purdue, with all those schools that aren't considered Ivy League but are still considered a top echelon educational institution.
Well, you know, something else that's happening on the education front. There's a young woman in Buffalo, New York, Kiara Harris, single mom, was just charged with child neglect. Had her children taken away from her by CPS because she wanted to enroll her children in homeschooling. She was going to start the process herself. She actually turned in all the paperwork. All the paperwork was fine. CPS got a call. They looked into her case. She thought that everything was fine. Lo and behold, they came back, I think, a couple of weeks later and ended up arresting her and separating her children from her, saying that she was illegally putting the children into homeschooling because she didn't have full legal custody of her children. Now, she countered back and said that she's always been a single parent, and therefore she does have full custody of her kids. Now, Damon, you and I haven't practiced some family law. Just because you're a single parent doesn't mean that in the eyes of the law you are legally a single parent with full custody of the child. So this is one of those interesting situations where the law is getting in the way of a parent doing the right thing.
Maybe.
Why maybe?
Well, I mean, if, for instance, she is a single parent, but she has joint custody or a 50-50 split with the father, so like in Texas, it would come down to who has the right to decide that educational component of the children. When you have two people, mother and father, fighting over kids, Texas will create a conservatorship, which lists rights and duties of the parents.
Right.
Who pays child support, who does medical, all that kind of stuff. One of them is who is in charge of educational. Now, I don't know this particular woman's full history, but if she didn't have that right to make that educational decision, well, then, I mean, I don't think it should be a crime. That's too far.
So do we know for sure that there is any type of legal or specific, what am I trying to say? Any specific
Get it out.
guardianship?
Get it out.
You know what I'm saying? Guardianship over the kids? Because if y'all were together, y'all made a baby, and then the mother is the one who's the primary caregiver of the baby or the child, are you saying that even in that situation, the father still can say, hey, I don't want them to be homeschooled?
So in this case, there has to have been some kind of legal documentation giving them joint custody of this child. In order for them to say you don't have the right to make this decision, there has to be a court order in place for them to have looked up and said, wait, this is a joint custody issue. Now, even though there's a joint custody agreement or order in place, that doesn't mean that dad has been around. We see, or either parent. There's all the time where joint custody is given, where one parent doesn't exercise their rights that's given by that joint custody order, which I'm assuming is what we're having in this case. She's like, look, I've been raising this kid all by myself for X amount of years. Yeah, we have this joint custody, but for all intents and purposes, I am a single parent doing this, and now you're. The fact of the matter that they went this far with it to take away her kids and to arrest her is what's the egregious part about this.
Yeah.
You know, let me ask this because I'm just playing the other side a little bit. Because we talked about this with the child support case. Remember the guy who ended up having to go to jail? So, and I'm not a lawyer by any stretch, but how does it get to that point? Because it sounds like there were some stops in between. Oh, you can't homeschool your kid, and we're taking them away. It sounds like,
I agree with that.
9 times out of 10, there was some type of communication, something that said maybe you should stop, maybe come to court, maybe the other parent wants to talk about this. Yeah. Because it seems very odd to me. I think we get caught up in a culture that says, oh, they're doing her wrong. But are we sure that it went from, I'm homeschooling my kids, I did all my paperwork, and the next day somebody shows up and says, yeah, we're taking your kids.
No, so I agree with you on
that. I'd love to hear more about the case, and even if she is being something's being done that's wrong to her and her kids, I'd like to hear what are the stops between that, what communications were made, because a lot of times, and I'm a parent, I get that you're not going to tell me what to do with my kids. So if you send me something and I'm in the right, I'm doing right. They're going to school.
Absolutely.
And then you send me something and I say I ignore it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Then we get to the point where now people step in and everybody's crying about it.
And those kids could have been enrolled in school in the midst for truancy, and she could have been arrested for that. I mean, there could be a lot of things going on. I mean,
I have a lot of friends who homeschool their kids, and there's like a huge homeschool community.
Yeah.
Like they have like extracurricular activity, like plays and all of that. So there has to be something else in between that's an issue. It's not just her homeschooling her kids.
Now, are those kids also weird?
What's weird?
Socially awkward.
Socially awkward because
I got a cousin that homeschools all. I think they have 5 kids. And they homeschool all their kids.
Yeah, my niece homeschools her kids until they're school age, and I mean they're fine. And then the kids that I know, they're older, and I know them from both African American races and white races, and they're fine. I mean, they just are not about this
socially awkward.
This school system that we have in Texas, it's more that than anything else.
Well, sometimes socially awkward turns into people like this Anchorage, Alaska man who strangled a woman unconscious on the side of the road, all while threatening to kill her, and then masturbated on her. However, he walked out of court with no future jail time under his belt. He was given he was charged with charges including kidnapping, assault, and a misdemeanor count of offensive contact with fluids. But he ended up striking a plea deal with the state by pleading guilty. Yeah, but he ended up striking a plea deal with the state by pleading guilty to a single felony assault for which he got 2 years of jail time with one suspended. And then on top of that, he received credit for wearing an ankle bracelet and staying at home. So he basically, as soon as he was sentenced, got to walk out scot-free. Now, in addition to that, the DA said that they considered this a life sentence for Schneider because of his losing his job, and saying that he hopes that it doesn't happen again. The judge presiding over the case had a similarly optimistic viewpoint, saying that this can never happen. He scolded him by saying this can never happen again. This is part of the reason, and we'll get to this Brett Kavanaugh situation in a second, but this is kind of part of the reason why I think some women don't come forward immediately, because they feel like justice is not being served with the equivalency of the actions that are perpetrated on them.
Absolutely.
Did they give a name for this guy? I just have one question. Like, how white is he? Like,
oh, he's pretty white. He's got blonde hair all the way around. He looks like the kind of guy that starts off with, "Hey, how are you, buddy?"
Yeah.
But this story, in tandem with the story we just talked about with the mother who just got charged with homeschooling her kid, highlights what we talk about a lot. Is that, I mean, justice is arbitrary in this country. I mean, it's morality is not equivalent to legality. We know that. Oftentimes they get conflated, but what is the inherent crime in someone trying to give their child a better education versus someone who masturbates on someone else and threatens to kill them? Clearly, we see that justice isn't meted out proportionally and commensurate with the crime, right? So I think we still put too much faith in the justice system. It's still pretty arbitrary, especially when it comes to prosecuting black people, black and brown people.
But to be fair, we don't know the facts of that particular case also.
Yeah,
Sir, doesn't matter what kind of facts. There's no reason for you to ejaculate on a person and kidnap them. There's no way that you can tell me that. I don't care what other facts you have.
Brennan read a very salacious tag, but we don't know if that actually happened. Like, there could be a reason why he got such a light sentence. Maybe half that shit was made up.
What the hell is that? No.
But wasn't he convicted?
Yes.
He pled to whatever
he pled to a crime, which was basically...
Right. So
he may have pled to what he did and not to the whole masturbating and jacking off part.
So you think if somebody would do... I've never accidentally nutted on somebody before.
I did.
So, well, sir, you might need to call me for legal representation.
So that's why they have robots now.
But I've never accidentally out in the open put somebody unconscious and then accidentally
Wait,
nutted
wasn't
on
she on like the side of the road?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. This was
like you kidnapped her and took her
he
on the
made her
side
go
of the road.
night.
I'm saying,
like there's something to be said
true,
about that.
Some of that may be salacious.
So she only went night.
So it was
not
enough.
night.
It was enough of
Man, why
it
you over
true
here
for him
defending
to
white
be.
privilege, man?
he's a defense attorney.
I defend people, sir.
You defending
I
white
defend
privilege,
people,
bro.
sir.
I'm with you. It ain't what you know, it's what you can prove,
Thank
right?
you, man. I mean, he could have.
But they proved it.
Just because
By
they
his
said-
plea.
Did they?
No,
By his plea,
they proved
they-
what he pled to, which was choking the girl out, not to kidnap her and masturbate on her.
Are you serious right now?
He is.
Yo, don't be so. My grandmother used to say, "Don't be so open-minded. Your brain's
literally
fall
have
out,
had a
bro."
client like this before.
Yeah.
I literally had a case almost similar to this, and the guy also walked out with 1 year county jail, facing 25 to life.
Again,
I'm saying there was
which
more
evidence is
to
why
it.
the justice system for which you are an
That
agent of
that
is
guy was-
arbitrary as fuck.
That guy was black. He just had a good attorney.
Whatever,
I'm just
man.
saying it was more to it. The facts were more to it than what I just said. Trust me, there were more.
I think that Damon might be starting to drink a little bit of this new Coke that's coming out in Aurora, Colorado, where Coke is trying out a marijuana infused drink.
Clearly,
They are adding to the progress of the green industry, and I think it frustrates me that corporations and good old boys are now capitalizing off of an industry that has, since its inception, been the forge by which black and brown people are pushed into the penal system. And right now they are making millions and slated to make billions over the course of the next 10 years off of an industry that should be by rights ours.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, don't hate the player, man.
We
You gotta hate
gotta-
the game.
I can hate both.
We didn't
You
create the
can't get mad at
industry.
Coca-Cola.
So to be fair, we didn't create the marijuana industry. We just got fucked over it. It was created by the white boys.
Well, we created the industry.
No, we did not.
We may not have created marijuana,
We
but we
did
created
not
it.
create the
We
industry.
did not. We were not the progenitors of drug use in this country.
No. But we're the
just got
ones who went
screwed.
on those street corners and made it an actual industry to be bought and sold. That's what I'm saying.
So are you feeding into the superstition or the bullshit story, the claim that black people use drugs more than white people?
No,
Because
I'm not saying that. At
I mean,
all.
I'm saying that. So you have to agree that there are more of them, and they do use drugs at either equal or higher rate. Then they have more of the market than we are, right?
I'm saying that marijuana has always been the black drug
How?
of
So
choice
explain.
compared to heroin, crack, angel dust, and all the others.
Just because it's been our preference,
Hennessy
we
and
haven't-
narcotics.
Correct.
ridiculous
You know
statement.
that is.
That's
You
just,
know,
you just make
That's
this
a
up.
ridiculous
You
statement.
just make that
Take it
shit
back.
up.
Take it back.
it is actually a fact that black people use marijuana higher than any other rate of drug.
But we still
On the
12.5% of the population, so they still use marijuana at a higher rate than we do.
Absolutely.
So what do you the fact that they have a more of a market share, if you will, for marijuana use is indisputable, bro. Come on now, and they started this shit.
So you don't want us to have.
No,
weed.
I want us to
Cool,
profit from
cool.
it, but your premise was faulty. That's what I'm saying.
Here we go.
What we
He
do.
just can't concede when he's wrong. That's
He
What I'm-
absolutely cannot.
What I'm saying is,
own it, man.
there's nothing to own on this. So what I'm saying is that if of all the drug choices that black people have solidified their claim and stake on marijuana as their drug of choice.
Okay.
If that is the drug of choice that we've had since inception, because they tried to push crack and cocaine into our lives, but we didn't. That's not what we wanted in terms of our drug du jour.
so when you say drug of choice, you mean as a consumer?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so that doesn't do shit for us making money if we're the consumer.
But
Right.
that's the industry. Consumerism builds an industry. True
I
or false?
understand that industry is going to flourish whether it's illegal or legal, but whether or not we're just the consumers or actually a part of the industry where we are manufacturing, selling, being a part of that supply chain is a different
Part of it, but not in the
thing.
way we want, because
Right.
it's still an industry. We're the consumer, though.
That's what he
Right.
just basically.
Yeah, that's what I'm
essentially
saying.
just said.
But
So-
we still help build it just like we did with
And-
slavery.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
we're
what
going
I'm
to continue
saying.
to build
No,
it.
but no one disagrees
They
with
built
your
it off
premise that
us.
it's hypocritical that we are not being the beneficiaries of this upcoming market, right?
Then lead with that.
We agree with that, but what you're saying, your premise is faulty. They own much more of the marijuana use in the market, and they have since the inception of this country.
I'm saying
than have.
we built up this particular industry.
I'm saying you're
Did
wrong.
we?
We did not.
Okay.
Well,
we got to
here's
find
what
out.
I'm saying we got,
I'll
no,
say.
not
We
even that.
funded it.
Not even
funded
that.
it.
We got punished for it, for sure.
Yeah.
We didn't build it. We all agree that we bore the brunt and we bore the whips of this industry growing. It was built on our backs,
Yeah.
right? But
Like
we are-
everything.
like everything. But
Yeah.
to say we own it, I mean, I definitely agree with Cynthia Nixon. That's her name in New York. That marijuana should be a form of reparations, the proceeds. But I mean, I can't.
How do you do that though? I mean, like,
So here's what she proposed, and this is why I thought it was great. She didn't say everybody black gets a check, all right? She just said, hey, when it's time to open these grow houses, if you've researched it, you know it takes a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's not just like you
Absolutely.
just get some land and buy some marijuana.
so giving like
right?
minority.
Yes, they get preference in land. They get loans, low interest loans, and getting all the supplies and the they get preference in how many. If say New York will only give out 5 licenses to grow marijuana, then at least 2.5 or 3 have to go to minorities and women. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it's not so much like you get a check, but like you get to reap in this benefit,
Right.
which we know will be a hefty ass check.
Yeah. As stated in my bio, I'm heavily invested in the burgeoning marijuana market on the growth side and the selling side, and absolutely true. The capital investment is so intensive for this. It's going to essentially be cost prohibitive for a lot of minorities coming into this. So there's going to absolutely have to be some kind of government subsidy or reparation, if you will, to offset that. Because we are being pushed out. I'm looking into this now, and I cannot, without like a lot of partnership and a lot of capital coming from other hands, do a grow business.
What's the average startup cost?
Like, if you want to do it right per marijuana business, about $7.5 million. Because it's very
it depends on how you're starting off your business.
right. There are scales, but the credentialing process is so crazy now because the federal government is still at odds with the state government. That all the banking regulations that are involved. You still have there's a large amount of lobbyism and hand And, you know, all that stuff going on right now. So you need a lot of different individuals that play a part in the team.
And there's a lot of work going on behind the
What
scenes.
about just a ratchet startup?
A ratchet startup? Oh, you talking
I
about
think
the police
just
department?
licensing for Texas is like $3 million.
Yeah, it's
Just
ridiculous.
licensing.
Yeah.
Well,
Not a single marijuana plant in your backyard. You out $3 million.
well, what's also frustrating in the hypocrisy, not only that extends all the way to the Supreme Court, where we have Judge Brett Kavanaugh still up for nomination. He's going through the ringer, and this what's his name? Michael Avenatti is coming for
He's
him
on
without
fire.
being sent.
That's too
Yeah.
high.
He's got four.
There's
four
well,
accusations now.
there's at least three. I know we've got the original one. Then we've got this second woman, Deborah Ramirez, who's come out, and then Michael Avenatti has said that there's a third unequivocal person that he has receipts for, he has witnesses for. I mean, he has gone back and forth
But
with the
Kavanaugh
Justice
said
Department.
he was a virgin the whole time, so he couldn't have. I mean, there's no way he could have sexually assaulted somebody because he hadn't even had a sexual experience.
Well, part of the interesting thing about
First
this
two,
is
there was no
that
penetration.
he has Avenatti has multiple witnesses that are ready to come forward. Basically, he's saying, "Come ask us, bro. We're waiting for you to come ask us
Yeah.
these questions." And it has, to the credit of the Democratic Party, we didn't think that it was possible for them to stop the Kavanaugh nomination going forward.
I did.
They have come to a full stop and said the FBI will be investigating this, and they are calling off the nomination hearing for this investigation. I mean,
Yo,
Kavanaugh might as well hang up his hat on
yo,
this.
we had this conversation, man. You know, I was not that optimistic there was going to be anything that was going to stand in the way of his confirmation.
Yeah, I agree with
right?
you.
But this right here is a godsend, man. Like, I don't see how, with the, you know, he's already convicted to a certain level, which is unfortunate. We can address that later about this whole Me Too movement and how it's basically
Right.
dispossessed men of the right of due process in the public opinion. But I think, given the overwhelming amount of facts that this, I think he's done, bro.
Oh, he's
I don't,
done.
I don't think he's. I think it's over for him.
I think at this
Let's remember,
point.
he's still a federal judge. He just may not be a Supreme
Oh,
Court.
sure. Well,
Oh,
we're
we
saying
need him off
he's
the Supreme
done
Court.
for the Supreme Court because at this point,
might not keep
even
that job,
the
though.
even the Republic, now he'll be able to keep this lifelong. I mean, they will have to jump through hoops to get
Congress
him
has
off
to
of that.
impeach him off that.
And they don't want that. They just don't want him on the Supreme Court with those
Yeah.
9. Now, at this point, I think that it gives the Democrats an opportunity to get enough of their people in, if they're able to, with this midterm election in November. And now they can push who they want in, because at that point, if they have enough members of Congress going in, any nomination the Republicans set forth, they're going to have to be Democrat friendly.
Yeah.
Maybe not liberal to the extreme, but at the very least a moderate on, before the Democrats will say, okay, we'll let this one run.
One that's not
Here's-
salivating to overturn Roe versus Wade. That's very minimal.
Here, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news on this one.
I don't think you are.
Here's why I think there's an issue here. All right, so you have the midterms coming up, right?
Yes.
All right, Trump showed everybody what a
His ass? Oh.
motivated group of Republican people can do, and they can vote and put Trump in office. Now, they may not be happy with Trump, so those people who voted for him may have just stayed home this election. Like, fuck it, I might just stay home, I might just chill out. But those people are hardcore Republicans. Those people are hardcore, and the idea that they won't that they can put a Republican on Supreme Court might be enough to say, fuck it, we'll come out not for Trump, but for the Supreme Court. So get another conservative on there to, one, protect my gun rights, which I do not know why they think guns are going to go anywhere, and two, they are obsessed with overturning Roe v. Wade. I do not know why.
Yeah, you know why? It's your people, man.
It's not my fuck you.
Yeah.
So how about that shit?
Right.
So
Are you having another day?
I just think
I'm
like
afraid for you, bro.
so what I'm saying is I don't think it's a
disagree.
blessing. I think that you might galvanize and incentivize Republican voters who would have stayed home and just been like, fuck Trump, I'm out. I'm just gonna chill out, to be like, fuck Trump, I'm out. But I want to get another conservative on the Supreme Court, so I'm gonna go vote.
Yeah, I disagree. And I think we had this conversation before. I don't think it was conservatives that put Trump in office. I think it was the people on the middle ground who looked at it as a choice between the lesser of two evils, who didn't truly know who he was and were uninformed voters, and those people that were on the fringes is what pushed him over, especially those white women who voted instead of voting for Clinton. And I think those people, after seeing who Trump is, are not going to stay at home and abstain just because they're conservative.
Hillary got the most votes.
She did.
Yeah.
She got the most votes. So that's what I always, I don't understand the electoral college and all that good stuff, but
Oh, yeah,
if
but-
she got, I don't know, this number's 3 million versus 2 million, the population spoke.
It's
So-
where you get the votes, though. It's which states you in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the
That's a moot
message
point.
spoke though. They wanted Hillary.
But not in the right way, not to the right formula.
Well, the bottom line is Trump is here. Trump is ready to ruin some lives, and we've got to try to stop him by any means necessary.
I don't want to leave past Kavanaugh because I'm really curious about these sexual assaults. I mean, the first two happened in high school. I'm not discounting that.
But he also had one at Yale.
But I'm not talking about.
Let's talk about the high school.
The first two, the high school ones. So you have one where even the Yale one where he flashed somebody, and then the other one where he in high school touched a girl's boobs. Now, I'm not saying those are absolutely right or should be done, and they're not something that should be punished for. But it wasn't high school. It was like
really?
30 years ago.
So,
I mean,
so do you have children?
Of course, I have.
Do you have a daughter?
I have 3.
Okay, so your daughter, even in high school, she tells you, hey, JoJo, whatever, did whatever. 30 years later, you run into JoJo. You dapping him up? Or you slapping him up?
I mean, I would never dap him up. I probably wouldn't slap him up 30 years later. I would take care of that in high school when I found out. What I'm saying is it right? Is it right to hold to? And I'm not saying that it is right what he did.
Yeah.
I acknowledge it's wrong, so I'm not excusing it at all. But to say 30 years later, like, hey, I think at some point in time, even with the Me Too, you have to address it now. Like, and to say 30 years later,
you're gonna go long. So let me just say something. Let me just say something real quick. When you show bad judgment, and the job that you're up for has judge in the title,
right?
Maybe, just maybe,
You know what? That'll preach.
that's some shit that people need to look at. I'm not saying that for every job in every situation, but I'm saying if you do something, we know human nature. If I do something and get away with it when I'm 17, I'm going to try this shit again when I'm 19 and when I'm 20, and until somebody says, no, this is wrong, because most of them don't think the shit that they're doing is wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Until somebody calls them on
And
their
it's
bullshit.
been part
And
of culture
he's
for
terrible
men to
judgment.
behave like that. So it's not.
No.
It is.
Don't let all men like that. I mean,
But
that's
it is
I
part
didn't
of the
say
culture.
all men. I just said men. So
It is
I
part of the
didn't put
culture.
a
But-
quantitative amount on it. But
Mm,
let's
that
be
quantitative,
serious. Let's be real.
I like that.
It has been known for men to be creepy. It's been acceptable for men to be creepy.
I don't agree with that.
For some men,
For some men.
So
you don't
when
put
you
this
say
on.
men,
Okay,
you're saying
I'll-
all.
I mean, don't.
I'm not saying all
But
men.
Give us a
here-
I'm not saying all men, but I'm
Let me-
saying
let me-
it's been acceptable.
Let me say this, because
hold on,
this is
before you go there, Rod, go ahead and say what you got to say, man.
So, what I find disingenuous about this rebuttal, which has been common amongst conservatives, about this Kavanaugh thing, it happened when he was 17. How can we hold someone accountable for something that happened when he was a child? By God, his frontal lobe wasn't even developed yet, right? So, my thing is, the duplicity of this is that even Kavanaugh himself, I'm sure in his judgeship, has sentenced somebody who was a minor to jail for longer than 30 years for a crime they committed as a child. 1. 2, it's not about our reticence to give this man reprieve or give him a second chance. It's about the fact that this demonstrates his judgment, his character, and that doesn't change. Who I was when I was 17, Brennan and I were talking about this on Facebook. We both, I'm pretty sure, had ample opportunities. I know I can speak for myself. Ample opportunities to take advantage of a female sexually, perform some of the similar acts, but we did not do so because we have character. Our moral fabric was established long before we were 17 years old. So that's bullshit.
Yeah.
But you can't deny that you at 17 and you at 40 years
We're
old
different,
right now
but fundamentally
are
we're the
person.
same. Like, fundamentally, my
Okay,
moral
so
fabric is the same.
You grow. You
Yes.
make mistakes and you grow. I'm not excusing what he did. I'm just saying
no,
at 17.
you just learn what you can't get away with.
That's one avenue of learning.
So
But I don't think that's true for everybody. I think
I'm talking about
you can
people
make
that do
mistakes
people
at
that do
17
that move in
and
those
on.
ways, learn what to do and what not to do. And I just want to go back to your point, because I see this all the time. I do this too as a man. A woman says it's in society for men to be people. We all say no because we're not creeps. But the way to think about it is this: if you did some creepy shit, most people would be like, "Oh, you just being a dude."
Right.
Let's keep it real
That's
too.
that's
Right.
the way most people that don't think like we think would be like, "Oh, it's not same shit. Oh, he was 17. Oh, he fucking tried to rape somebody."
Yo,
Yeah.
and
But
let-
we try to throw it off as boys being boys. Oh, he was just this. Oh, he was just. Oh, maybe he
Nobody
didn't
ever
know.
cringed at trains. It was like,
no, I was about to
dang,
say you just took my
that shit
fire.
was crazy.
You just took my fire.
You know what I'm saying?
So
Like,
here's my
Nope.
thought on it. And it's
What's
not,
the difference?
It's not about the. I'm not going to take their point of view on this. I agree with parts of it, but there's something else to be said about the fact that you have someone who is in a position for nomination for the Supreme Court justice who now has a question of his character. And if let's assume for a second that it did happen, and your argument is that it's 30 years ago and people change over time. If it did happen, I agree that people can change, and I don't really care what the nature of the crime is. I do believe that people can change, have a change of heart, whatever, how nefarious the crime may be. However, if he did it and he never disclosed it, and he still is not disclosing it, then that is a character flaw for me right now. Because at this point, you still haven't owned up to it. You still haven't said, you know what, I made some mistakes, but I have changed my ways. And I changed. As a matter of fact, I felt terrible when I did it back then. I was terrified as a 17-year-old.
Right.
I was terrified as a collegiate student. But now, as a 60-plus-year-old man, I'm a changed person. He hasn't owned up to it. And because he hasn't owned up to it, and because there's a question, I don't want somebody sitting in the Supreme Court seat that has a question of his character.
Right.
And that's the problem I have. It doesn't matter who made the allegation at this point. There is now, because at some point people were saying, well, hey, there's only one. So, if there's one, there's a question of if they're just coming out of here just for the sake of this nomination ceremony. However, now we're at the point where he's got, like you said, 4 right now that are coming out. And with each new one, all that does is hurt your credibility. And I don't want somebody in office that I have to wonder, well, did I maybe put in a rapist as my new Supreme Court justice?
But to be fair, you can make that one about anybody. Just because.
But everybody's not.
But everybody is not in a Supreme judge.
Just because no man has come out about Ruth Bader Ginsburg doesn't matter that she has a lily white past.
But the difference is they have not come out against her, so I can't make that surmisation at this point. The only thing I can have right now is the fact that
it's the same thing about saying Jay-Z wouldn't be who he was if he would have died.
Clarence Thomas had more than one accused, by the way. People don't remember that. It was more than one. He had more than one accused, and he still Houdini'd his way out of that bullshit. So it's not implausible that this man could end up on the Supreme Court.
But everybody tried to make it look like Anita was crazy. Oh no, he couldn't have possibly done that. Oh, they clutching their imaginary pearls.
I hate that chunk.
It's the same thing.
He made it. The point I was just making was, and for me, it's always the same. I'm a redemption kind of guy. I'm a forgiveness kind of guy. I'm not saying Kavanaugh deserves this. I'm just saying there's an issue with high schooler judging a grown ass man for anybody for a high school action. So
it's this particular job. It's not like he's trying to work at Office Depot.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter. It does matter because he's in a role to make decisions that affect laws.
Everybody has.
You act like he's shotguns out of fucking store. He's trying to rape somebody.
That's not correct. That's not. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Listen, despite another point is that despite the fact that he may have grown as an individual, this woman who got assaulted, fuck that. She got raped. She would have damn near got raped if she didn't get saved by her friends or whatever. The fact that this woman has to live with this for the rest of her life is still affecting her. She's a victim in perpetuity, and you acting like this is just light. Oh, I did something at 17. I tried to put my dick out on a
It was childish. It was silly.
And quite honestly, you talk about reformation. If this is the kind of judge who really believes in reformation, his track record would show he's a reformative judge. He's the kind of judge who doesn't hand out egregious sentences to people. But his track record doesn't show that at all. His track record shows someone who is a hardcore conservative that is punishing people with a hardcore conservative value type of
at a young age,
and
the same age he was when he allegedly committed this crime.
You would think that somebody who's even been accused, because he was accused back then, you would think that someone who was at least accused back then was like, you know what, I don't want people walking around here with these false allegations. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be more of an understanding judge who understands the plight of people, who understands that sometimes players fuck up, sometimes shit happens, sometimes all these things that you could think about. But he doesn't do that. So that shows me right there that you don't even walk the walk of a person who's been questioned before. And that to me is a problem.
And unlike a good Christian man, he didn't say that if it had not been for the grace, there go I. He knew he escaped it.
Well, go ahead now.
He escaped a lifetime of not fulfilling his promise because of a mistake. And yet he condemns other kids for doing the same thing.
And we should be condemning the U.S. government right now because they have lost another 1,500 kids. These little illegal kids, bless their little hearts. We don't know where they are, and it's not even the same. Several months ago, they lost the first 1,500. Now this is a whole new, brand new slew of 1,500 that they lost. I don't understand how you lose. I mean, I'm saying like so. they're supposed to be keeping track of these
work for the
kids,
federal government?
and these kids are no longer to be found. I don't know how we get in, and that they're actually putting in place. They're working on some legislation on protocols on how to keep track of the kids. How it takes you losing 3,000 children to say, you know what, let's figure out how to not lose kids is beyond me at this point. It shows us just how little we consider the lives of somebody who doesn't have American at the first part of their name and white as the second part of their name at this point. Like, there is no
that a newsflash
consideration.
to you?
Well, it's not about a newsflash. It's about the fact that you have shown the least amount of regard. And you would think that at least when it comes to children, you know, that children kind of belie a different level of
Why?
It's above the racism
Why?
at that point. Why?
What do you think
Because
happened to our
because
ancestors?
Brennan loved kids.
No, I'm saying we all love the kids.
Except for the government.
I'm saying why, as in what proof do you have? They still don't have clean drinking water for kids in Flint.
Yeah.
Like you would think something like that, the whole country would stop and be like, "Oh hell no, we got to fix it."
We gotta fix this, and
Like,
we gotta fix it now.
Yeah, like
When they kill our kids, you don't see them coming together talking about
people
condemning
shoot
their
up.
actions?
People shoot up in elementary school,
Yeah.
and the next day is thoughts and prayers.
And Burger King on the way.
Right. So it's the same thing for these kids. All they're thinking is, "Man, that's messed up." Because it doesn't affect them.
I'm just irritated by the whole situation, and the irritation that I have is probably being mirrored by the people in the NFL Hall of Fame, because they're irritated that they are not getting their just due. So you are going to respect these segues that I have worked diligently
That was-
to.
That was the week. It's still good, but it's
You know, why don't you want to do
The
this?
Grand Canyon.
You wanna do
That was
this?
the Grand Canyon
You wanna do
between
this?
that and
Segue.
So, anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by these, unfortunately, unappreciative co-hosts, the NFL Hall of Famers are saying, look, we need more. We need salaries. We need benefits. We need life insurance packages. All the stuff that we have helped create this multi-billion-dollar industry. And once you're done with us, you keep going while we're stuck in the mud. You have banged up our bodies for 2 to 5 to 10 to 15 years in some cases. And after we leave, we have no health insurance, but for the health insurance we go get personally, you need to help us after we have helped you so much. Tristan, I hear you moaning and groaning. What's up, brother?
I don't agree with all that.
What don't you agree with?
Any job you have that has a 9 to 5 and salaries and benefits, once you leave,
What?
you got the option of Cobra for a few months, and that's
it.
Now you get paid an exceptionally amount of more money to work less than. Now, granted, you do work harder and take more risk and have more danger, but you get an exponential amount more money. So you should be more responsible and think long ahead versus, hey, I still want you to take care of me after the fact.
I like this brother.
Yeah.
So, Charles, you are vehemently shaking your head no.
Only to a certain extent,
Okay.
because there's probably a cutoff line for people who didn't know what they were doing to their bodies long term. So for some of the older Hall of Famers, I'm sure they probably knew, okay, maybe I'm not going to walk as well. Maybe my knees are going to get messed up. There's a chance I could get hurt. Most of them probably didn't know that they were going to be dealing with traumatic brain injuries for the rest of their lives, all of the things that go along with that. I think at a certain point where that information becomes readily known to everybody, now the people in the NFL know, look, I'm taking this money, I'm putting my life on the line, and I know what the consequences can be. So if I'm a guy that played in the 60s, and I'm, Tony Dorsett or somebody like that, and I had no clue that I wasn't going to be able to think straight in my 50s, then maybe the NFL should go back and look at that. Because in any other job, if I worked with asbestos at some point, and I wasn't protected by my company, if I worked with some hazardous material, I could come back and I could sue that company, and they would have to compensate me in some way, correct? Like, that's normally the way it goes. So I think at a certain point, you need to look at when did these players know that playing football was going to shorten their lives
I think so.
and maybe help some of those.
So I mean, that's a good point, but I think it's not opposite to the question, right? Them having insurance, that has nothing to do with whether they perceive the risk inherent to football. Anyone with a job who's setting themselves up for the future should set aside money to be able to afford a retirement. And these people were paid much more than the average person. So you can't just say that based on the fact that they were unaware of CTE or traumatic brain injury that these people should have been.
Most people, you are joined. Like, take you for example. you're starting a profession right now. You got 30 plus years to put away for your retirement. If somebody told you for your whole life you're going to train to be a physician, you're going to make it, we're going to pay you a whole bunch of money, you got 4 years to do it in, bro. And then you got to roll. And if you're the best doctor that has ever been, maybe you get 15 years.
That's
and
different
then you got to roll.
These people make
that's what they're dealing
far
with.
more money per year, per annum than I can make.
Not
in
all
that
of them.
30-year period.
Not all of them.
But we're
The
talking
top
about,
end.
these are the Hall of Famers speaking, so we are talking to the upper echelon of the NFL.
But
They're the spokesman for
those,
this.
Go back and look at those contracts.
I understand that, but listen, you cannot.
That's a whole
that would
different-
negate contract law. We have to. That's a whole other discussion.
That's a whole other
So
you
we
can't
but
just
you
go back
saying
and arbitrarily
you saying it like they were
because
all
it was a raw
making
deal.
money like they're making today. They
No,
weren't.
I'm not saying that. You have some valid points. What I'm saying,
They
you
weren't
can't negate
paying
the
money
fact
like that
There's an
then.
accountability
Yeah,
portion.
you
to
got
this, too.
you got
These guys
people
had money.
you got people in the Hall of Fame who had jobs postseason, had a job that they had to go to, even though they were NFL stars. So the money, we talk about it like it's today. It's not today. That's all I'm saying is we need to look at historically what they made, what they generated, and maybe because what we're looking at, we're not looking at employees. People keep talking about them as employees. There is a partnership between the NFL Players Association and the NFL. The NFL Players Association is guaranteed a certain amount of percentage of that revenue every year.
The players,
That's
the
happened.
former players association.
But what about?
I understand that, but I'm
what
saying
about the
they were
parts-
not beneficiaries of that. So, of course, they're going to come back and ask for what they think is right, what should have been right then, but they didn't have the bargaining power.
Imagine if you, as a business owner, you enter into a contract with employees, and you give them certain benefits, and
Right.
you assume that you're going to get certain benefits, and then 30 years later, you're doing so well, exponentially well, and your workers now have these benefits that were not conferred to you, but now all of a sudden, you have to go out of your pocket and go and pay these people something that they agreed on the contract to do.
The question is, was the contract in good faith?
Yes.
the contract-
Yes. So
They didn't know that.
my only thing about football is, like your analogy, I thought was pretty good. But what I find fault is when you play football, you know it's dangerous. A football player knows. Yes, Chuck. A football player knows football is bad for the health. You know you hit with
No,
your
no.
head. I'm saying it's
A
not.
football player today does.
A football player then knows. They were more violent then than now.
Right.
With less equipment.
Football
With
players
less
knew
equipment.
that it wasn't good. They played through injuries. They got hurt. They
I
played
understand.
through- They got
I
concussions.
understand
They
that.
played through.
But
But
there
what I'm
is
saying
no
is,
evidence that those people knew that they were going to be suffering traumatic brain injuries.
I mean, so
That's different
But there's no
than saying
evidence
it
that
was
the NFL
dangerous.
knew at the same time period.
That's a
Also,
separate
they
case.
For sure, the NFL knew before the players. I'm not disagreeing with that. But there's no evidence that in the 60s the NFL knew and they didn't know. What I am saying is football is inherently dangerous. We know it's dangerous. Just like hockey. You only a fool says this is a safe sport and I won't hurt myself.
Yeah.
And so going into it, I might hurt myself. I might blow my knee out. You know what? My homeboy blew his knee out playing college ball.
Yeah, they
He
take
didn't make
those
it,
risks.
and I feel sorry for him. Oh well, I'm gonna make it. So I think when you enter to a job that you know is inherently dangerous, like football, you know you're putting your body at risk. So then to be surprised that your body has now suffered from that risk, I don't think I agree with Rod here.
No.
You can't go back later and be like, oh well, I knew I put my body at risk, but I know it'd be that bad. I thought it'd be a knee and elbow and shit.
But there's also a difference between immediate injuries and long-term injuries, and that's regardless of
Not in the law.
That's regardless of CTE issues. We're talking about some of these people who won't be able to walk straight for the rest of their lives because of the way they were hit. There are certain injuries that are foreseeable accidents, and then there are some that are unforeseeable. That I think that some of these people have a point in being made. Also,
Not in the eyes of the law.
also in terms of future issues, you keep talking about the past and what they've done in the past. What about the revenue that these Hall of Famers continue to make for the NFL? I think that they should
That's a
receive a
separate issue.
percentage.
That's not
It's
the
not.
reason
It's
they
actually
outlined- that was not outlined in the
hold on.
agreement.
You're gonna let me. It
Yeah,
actually
go ahead.
was part of the issue. They
So-
said that they continue to make the NFL money and they want a percentage of the shares a part of
They
that.
signed over a license of themselves when you go to play.
Yes.
When you go to play, you sign over a license of yourself to play. You sign it away. It's
Yeah.
done. Whether I make $1 or $50 million, you gave that away a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now you may have thought that you may not
But
realize
contracts change all the time, though. That's
But-
what the NFLPA.
but not retroactive. There's no novations here.
But
There's no novations.
They do it. Yes, they do it all the time.
They have to give you all your pay, right?
And there's no such thing. There's no such thing. And you should know this. Hold on, man. There's no such thing as a contract in perpetuity. Because at this point, if they made a contract 30 years ago, that contract should not be valid for the rest of their natural
it
lives.
most certainly is. Life in perpetuity is life in the artist plus 21 years, sir. So that's
But they don't. But they don't actually. They don't go by that now. They don't do that anymore.
You literally said there's no perpetuity. There
And
is
what I'm saying
You gotta
is,
be a lawyer to doggone engage in this. This is common sense, bro.
It's not about common sense.
This would turn
Are
on
you
its head
kidding me right
contract
now?
law.
Are you kidding me right
how
now?
would anybody be safe to go into a contract with a contract that can be changed retroactively because you find some new knowledge?
you
going
realize
forward?
there are contracts
Come on.
overturned every damn day as unconscionable contracts, as contracts made
Not in
under
good
duress,
faith. That's
as
a
a
different-
not. No, it's not an unconscionable
not a good
contract
thing?
because if you're talking about the risks that were associated, what they knew at the time back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s versus what they know now in the 2000s and 2010s, that will make a contract void by saying, well, there were issues that were not known to us before that time. So there are plenty of contracts that get overturned
Oh, you finished?
for being egregiously unconscionable in their action. And this to me is one of those times.
So let me-
because they weren't doing licensing the way they're doing them now.
Okay.
They weren't doing all the things that NFL players are getting now. All the benefits that NFL players get now are not the benefits that they got back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Okay, you done? Chuck,
Maybe.
Back to your point, Chuck. Listen, everything you said is actually moot too, because I know a lot of this is about CTE, TBI, a lot of these brain injuries, right? And actually, I'm actually writing a textbook on TBI and brain injury right now, a real one, an academic textbook. So I kind of know a little bit
You want
about
a hand
this.
clap?
In the NFL right now, the NFL is soon to face a lot of class action. They're facing class action right now, and there will be remuneration to those players who suffered when they played in the NFL, even though it was not known to the NFL at the time. So they will be compensated for that. But we're talking about something totally separate when we're talking about all the other stuff like insurance coverage, salary, et cetera, et cetera. That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
That's
That's a whole
let's
other
move
issue.
on,
But
because-
I know this,
What?
and I bet the business people in the room can tell you this too. Life ain't about what you deserve; it's about what you negotiate. So if I'm them, I'm asking for it, and I'm fighting for it because they got enough effing money that they can possibly help these men and do some
And
things.
quite honestly, the NFL doesn't want that kind of bad press with their Hall of Famers. They're going to give them something at the end of the day. But
Doubt it.
Mississippi State Police are saying that they're giving nothing to Nike at this point, saying that they will no longer buy Nike over the Kaepernick campaign. They have followed suit with several other corporations and some city entities that have said that they are going to stop using Nike products because of their "We Stand with Cap" montage that they've put on advertising. Now, some of these government officials have been chastised, saying the ACLU has actually said, "Hey, you do this, and you're going to have a fight coming to you because once you get government involvement into the buying and purchasing of things based off of personal feelings of discriminatory actions, then we have an issue." Mississippi State Police, they are acting as Mississippi does and being who we thought that state was to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm so over people not understanding the Kaepernick issue, man, because it's so redundantly false. Like, how do you continue to say that this shit is about the armed forces or it's about the flag itself? Not once
It's
has
about
Cap
the
ever
narrative
said
that they
this
want
shit.
to feed. They want to feed that narrative, even though it doesn't have anything to do with armed forces or people in the service. It has to do specifically with police brutality.
So-
He's always communicated that. So
let's ponder on this. What if they are fully aware of the message, but this is their mask? This is their mask
brother
to say,
right there, boy.
we still don't want you to take a stance and
Yeah.
do anything in contrary to what we want you to do. So we'll still guise it as patriotism, but we don't like your black tail standing up against us.
yeah.
Hey, bro. Super ditto to that, but I'm mad that you stole my fire. But
Everyone steals your fire,
Yeah.
right?
I
mean,
Maybe
yes,
you
you
just
gotta
need to
go
have
for
a
it.
hotter fire.
hey, no, it's purposeful obfuscation of what the real issue is, and it's just their way to hide behind racism. They can't openly be racist and openly say that I'm at odds with the.
Yeah,
the
But
they
why
don't
not?
care about the little kids.
Why
in the shop,
not?
Because they're smart enough to know what comes with that. There's reprisal to that.
So what actually comes with that? Because Trump
You can lose your job.
Trump is openly racist. He hasn't lost his job.
No, Trump is-
he's openly grabbing women by
You're
the.
talking about Teflon Don. How about all these people who got caught like saying racist shit, like the stripper recently? People who get fired because they say something.
So this is my thing. I'd rather you not have your cape on than have it on.
I agree with you.
So I want to know how you feel about me, what
Me
you
too.
think about. I want to know all of that.
Me too, but that's
you don't
not
have to
society
lose your
function.
job. I just don't have to support you, and that's how I feel about
So
it.
that you don't lose your job though, which is cool. You still lose your job though.
No, I'm saying you don't have to lose your job. I'm just not going to support you.
Yo, you and I have.
It's the same. Like, say what you say, feel how you feel. I just know where you stand.
Well, we all know where Drake stands as we move on to pop culture right now. And Drake is sick of these women lying on his good penis saying that he's impregnated them. And
Me too,
he has now put a lawsuit out.
That's a lot of credit you're giving Drake. You don't
He has now put a lawsuit out.
tell you that?
He has now put.
pillow talk?
Y'all gonna let me get the damn story out? Shit! Goddamn!
Man, we
Let's
gotta
put on top with your body.
retroactively talk about this later.
Y'all finished? Y'all gonna let me talk?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We finished, but we
Drake, I know you're not Ella. I see you gearing up and rearing up for a fight. Drake is filing a lawsuit against one Layla Lace over in Manchester after his last year's show during his Boy Meets World tour in Manchester, England. Layla, he says, voluntarily and seemingly happily performed oral sex with him or for him.
She got pregnant in the mouth?
Well, she's saying that, hey, I've got some receipts to show. He knocked me up. I got pregnant. But then she never had a baby. And so now at this point, we've got Drake saying, well, shoot, this woman lied on me. I'm tired of women lying on me. I'm tired of being the victim of these female verbal assaults.
Me too.
I think Drake is saying
No, it's the Me Too.
Drake is probably saying me as well. You know, I don't know. But
That's pretty funny. Man.
thank you. Off the dome. That's what I do. Part of the problem though is that like you don't have to fuck every girl that you come across on tour.
Don't you know?
Don't you know?
Says no dude ever.
Man, shut the fuck up.
I'm just saying.
How dare man like you or I or Charles or
A
anybody?
man
Hey,
like
hey,
you will not impugn my good character,
listen,
sir.
how dare somebody like us posture as if we understand the pressures that a man like Drake sees 100 women throwing ass at him every day? What kind of pressure
Are we
is that?
supposed to be putting up a little violin for all the
Listen,
punani niggas?
that man cannot run that fast. I'm trying to tell you.
What? He can say no.
Checks over stripes though. I mean, he got some good shit.
He's fucking too many women to not use
Says
protection.
no man ever.
To not use protection. To not use
We don't know,
like
but
you
but
can't.
in
in this story, did he not use protection, or was it some other stuff?
It has been lauded that Drake consistently does not cap up. He just goes out and says, "You know what? I'm here. Let's have
Yo,
fun."
man, I'm not gonna allow you to impugn sex. There's a lot of gray area in between that, right? Because what if two people are consensual or two people in a relationship and they get tested before and then she goes on birth control? Is it somehow bad that they don't want to use a condom? That is unnatural. I mean, for a lot of people, I understand that. Doesn't make him a bad person because he don't want to cap up. I mean, I don't.
I'm
go
not
around
saying
having
he's not a bad.
wanton
I'm not
sex
saying he's a
with
bad. But I'm
strangers,
saying
but-
this is not the first woman who said that you fucked with my life.
But it's an
for the next
allegation,
18
though, right?
years.
It's an allegation.
And at some point, you got to be like, I know I don't do that because I put a cap on everything. Like he's up here questioning, like, well, did I fuck this woman around? Like
Man,
that?
how do you
like you should like
adding on, bro? How you know he's not compelled by the court just because there's an allegation that's brought forth?
What do you mean compelled by
if
the
a woman
compelled by
says
the
you're my
court?
son, my child's father, I got to go and give a DNA sample, right?
But there was no baby.
Right? There was no baby.
Okay.
Eat your Whataburger. Eat your Whataburger, sir.
Stop lying on Drake.
Now, yo, check this out. I was wrong, but see how I did that, Brennan? You ain't capable of doing that.
Well, because you were blatantly wrong, sir.
You were blatantly wrong like a thousand times.
You look wrong. Just everything about you is wrong. I'm sick of you.
But let's, on the other side, not talking about whether or not he's using protection and all that stuff. They're in the crosshairs anyway. Because all it takes is a woman to be seen with him to say, hey, he did this or he did that. So I think it's good that he is calling this woman on her lies. At least she has to go to court and answer for this if he should. Because clearly he doesn't need the money. I think this is just about putting people on notice that if it ain't real,
It's like making an example.
right, you better be sure it's real. So, and maybe he'll be more careful now that he
A lot of
has.
y'all ass out here raw dog and trying to
Yeah, I was about to say.
As we move forward, there's one young man who, instead of shimming his way into the hearts of millions, he mean mugged his way into 28 years in prison, and that is one Suge Knight, who has received 28 years after vehicular manslaughter charges and taking a no contest plea against. I don't even know why he took no contest. I mean,
They don't sue him.
Charles looks a lot like.
but
It's on camera.
Don't do that.
For legal reasons, they don't sue him.
I mean, Charles is our resident Suge Knight expert in the face.
I do want to say that
How do
shit
you
out
feel
loud.
about
Suge
this?
doppelganger.
Listen, man, I just spent a week in
Shoot
LA.
Bishop.
and I was nervous the whole time I was there because I had like 3 people be like, you look just nah, man, that ain't me. But nah, man, hey, listen, you do the crime, you do the time. But it's a crazy story though to think where he was, like the height having.
But wasn't his defense that he was trying, like they were trying to attack him and he was trying to get away? Wasn't that his defense?
Yeah, did you watch the video?
I saw it.
Yeah, he did.
Clearly that story bullshit.
Think about having Snoop, Dr. Dre, and Tupac.
All in one.
The biggest thing in music, you running the biggest thing in music to go from that to 28 years in prison.
That's just like Aaron Hernandez. Like, you at the top of the football game as a wide receiver, and you right here running them up, killing people.
Choices, man.
But the thing about it is, money doesn't make you better. It just accentuates who you are. So that's all that happens in both of those situations. Like, these were people. I'm not gonna say that Aaron was a killer before.
He was definitely a killer.
But you just didn't want to push him.
I'm just saying, like, he had killer potential.
He had bodies.
Oh.
Yeah, he was
I don't really know Arian like that,
bodies.
just in case you're watching Arian.
Well, no, Aaron's
Aaron's
dead.
dead.
He-
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah,
forgot.
he's watching, but he can't
R.I.P.
mess with you, though,
He
so.
hung himself, just like this barber who hung a noose of Colin
That was
Kaepernick
so
said
crazy.
He didn't know that what he did was racist.
Well, when was he born? In like 2018?
He's in California, though.
I think all these people are like every time somebody comes out with blackface, every time somebody comes out and says, "Well, I didn't know nigger." I said nigga, not nigger. Oh, I was in moderate blackface, not all the way blackface. I was you know what I'm saying, the way I just hung this noose, I was thinking like, oh, it's time for us to hang out. Like that's all this bullshit.
I believe a lot of them.
You what?
Here's why I
You look
say
a real
Let
granddad.
Let me tell you why I believe a lot of them. Because most of them live in worlds where they don't have to think about the consequences of their actions. That's what white privilege is in action. Most of them have never been held accountable for a damn thing they do in life. They get to say whatever they want, joke however they want, say it was just a joke, I was just playing, and they get away with the bullshit.
They get
Or they don't have a point of reference. Like some people actually live in a bubble. They, their house is like that, their community is like that, so they don't even know. I know that seems crazy to us that way. How you not know?
Tristan, what are you gonna say?
I think some of them just want to go viral. I think they know what's going to happen.
You think
in
that they
2018,
really?
But this had been up for 2 years.
2018.
That had been hanging up in his barbershop
Exactly.
for 2
So
years.
that's the confounder, and I agree with her. on that.
And then somebody posted
2016,
it.
You still know. You
No.
still aware.
What
Let me tell
I'm
you
saying
something.
is, it had been in his barbershop since 2016, and somebody that went to his barbershop recently posted it, and that's when. So, what about all the people who hear he was cutting before then? Did nobody say nothing about that?
So
Who was his clientele?
So then, Tristan, do you think the same thing that they do the sensationalization, like with these 2 white comedians who have the podcast that talked about black men and said that they basically fetishize the black man, saying, "Well, I've had a black man before, but he wasn't really like the black man. I need me the real black man, the thuggish, ruggish bone type of black man." They got hammered for that one. Is that something that they just didn't know about, or is that something that they sensationalized?
Wait, what?
Weird.
listen, he transitioned to early.
I know. I got a little bit on that. I got a little bit. So I got a little bit on it. So it's a podcast, and the podcast is 2 women. And the
Oh,
podcast,
2
and the
women.
podcast, no, and
You said 2 men. You said
said
2
2
men.
men.
and the podcast, and the title of the podcast is "Guys That We've Effed," guys that we've had sex with.
Oh, now you don't
So
curse, Charles?
I'm trying to help.
My
You know
bad.
what I'm saying? Teach them well, let them lead the way. It might be kids watching. But it's guys that we fucked, and they talk about men that they've had sex with, and they try to be comedic. It's another one of these things, though, right? It was 2 years ago where they said these things about somebody not being black. But that's how white, like, I don't get how we don't understand this, because we live in a world where we have to walk the line, we have to watch what we say. But they say shit like this all the time. My son was just telling me that his a white woman friend of his was telling him something about, I know I was black in a past life. He's like, well, why? Because I love fried chicken.
Yeah, some
and she didn't think there was anything wrong with that statement.
Yeah.
Like, they don't get it because nobody checks them. Nobody checks them on their bullshit.
like
It's good that they're getting checked on this.
I feel like Rod and I might be about to say the same thing, so I'm going to let him go ahead and say it first.
I promise you we're not going to say the same thing.
Well, I don't want to steal your fire, sir, so go
say it
ahead.
first.
Bring us your heat.
So these topics, the previous topics for which you didn't let me speak on, they're related, right? I think it's hubris for us, and it's also like As black people, we feel like our perspective is the only thing that has value. We don't think that everybody else's worldview and how they see the world is valid. But there are communities of people, enclaves, where they are pretty much isolated. They don't really understand all the nuance about racial relations, the stereotype, etc. When I was in the Navy, I was with people who were from Iowa and out there in the Midwest in the Cornhusking region. They hadn't met any black people in their life until they went into the Navy. So there are people who have a limited perspective on certain things, and everything isn't malicious. Another thing is, I feel like comedians should be off limits. It should at least be given a little bit more leeway than the average person, because they take chances trying to be funny, so they say things that could offend people. And likely, a lot of times, if it's not funny, it's going to offend. There's a really narrow line between funny and offensive, and we need to let comedians be comedians. They're also like the last bastion of truth we have. A lot of people still look at the Daily Show for news because it was a lot better than actual CNN or Fox. Like, we have to leave the comedians alone. If it was it was a bad joke.
Or if that joke crosses over your audience. So if your audience is black people and you have Def Comedy Jam and they talk about crack ass, crack and shit like that, we all laugh and have a good time. But then when it goes over to like people who aren't black, they're like, it's bullshit racist.
Yeah, but I think more so than being racist, we got this internet culture of we want to cancel somebody. Somebody says something that one or two people or a few people find offensive, and all of a sudden we got to cancel them because 2 years ago they made a joke that you didn't find funny. Yeah. And I think there's bigger fish to fry. I saw the joke. I've listened to the podcast. I listened to tons of podcasts. I've listened to the podcast. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. But that's what you do when, as Rod said, when you're trying to make comedy.
Well, part of the problem, and I have to echo some of what Rod just said, was...
Brennan, man, I love you, bro.
Well, that's why I let you have your fire first, because I don't want to take your heat.
More fire.
The blue flame.
This is one all you smoke.
But the part of the problem is, I think black people tend to be overly sensitive about racial jokes when they're directed towards them. But we eviscerate everybody else with our racial joke. Hold on, Elegant. I see you gearing up to you. I mean, you grew another part over there getting mad. So hold on a second.
Good part, though.
That these people, and by these people, I say comedians. Comedians are built to be offensive. Like what their jokes. There's certain ones that are the family type of comedians. But I'm talking about the ones that we go see at the arena theater or the sellout crowds. Those are people that we are finding inherently offensive, but it's directed at others. So we think it's knee-slapping funny. When Cat Williams gets up there and says, "White person to see you, how are you, Joe? How are you, buddy?" We laugh and KeKe, but let George Carlin come up and say, "Oh, what's up, my brother?" And caricaturize a black person. We will go off and say, viral video. Did you see how George Carlin racistly showed us out?
But isn't it the same thing? Like, you can say whatever you want to say about your mama. You can say whatever you want to say about your sister, about your brother, your greasy granny. But let somebody else say it, and you ready to knuckle up.
But we say jokes about white people. White people are not, going viral. These stories aren't going viral about us saying offensive things about them. Is what the point is. We took it out,
Tristan, what you got to say?
Let's look at this as a culture, as a lately. Let's look at Shea Moisture. Let's look at Dove, how we just, lashed out because the black girl was the last person in the commercial. Or Shea Moisture didn't have a dark enough girl in the commercial. And then all of a sudden African Americans are like, we need to boycott because they're not representing our culture right. So, I think to the point that we can sometimes be a little bit too aggressive with some of the things that we take a stance on. I want to cut and cancel people just because of social media.
And I think if it's funny, it's funny. Because if you hear anybody that's out there, just for example, Bill Burr's piece about Kanye, is the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's a great white person talking about racism. I think it's hilarious.
It's funny. Heard him talking about black people being ashy? That was one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
So we have two more things that we're going to talk about quickly before we move into the highlight of the evening, which would be you, Tristan, and you, Ella. First is there's a superintendent that just resigned after making racist comments about a black quarterback.
He resigned?
He resigned. He got so much pressure from it.
Quick fired.
It's about the same thing. You either leave or we will put you out. So this guy's over in Osaka, Onalaska School District, about 100 miles north of Houston.
See it sight.
He made comments dealing with Deshaun Watson after the football game, saying that where's the quote at? That
you can't trust a black quarterback.
You can't trust the black. It he was making jokes, and then he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this tweet to go public. I sent it to the wrong place." Type. It was supposed to be a DM. He didn't apologize for what he said. He
And because he
apologized
wasn't
for
sorry
being
about it,
public.
and that's fine. You don't have to be
Which
sorry
goes
about what
back
you
to
said.
me, which goes back to Charles and Tristan and you saying that these people know what they're saying. They know how offensive it is most of the time.
That's not what I didn't say in all the time. I'm saying there are instances where people do not know.
Yeah, 1%.
But this is and I agree. See, don't take away my moment of agreement. We don't want to quote with this. We had to talk about this on a previous podcast. I was telling them I don't really like our form of protest trying to get everyone fired. I like to see my races coming, and I like to know whose business not to
know.
patron.
Take your shit off.
And so, like we were talking about the gay couple not being allowed to, the cake baker not baking the cake. I'm like, let the dude have his bakery. Just use our dollars to vote him out of business. And so I feel you on that.
By not supporting him,
Exactly.
if that's what you're for. If you I don't understand why you have to force somebody. Like, there's a sign on most businesses that say no shoes, no shirts, no service. So how you gonna come and sue me and say, "Oh well, I ain't have no shirt on. They wouldn't let me in. They need to let me in because they had no shirt." Like, that's what I say on my sign. Like, you can't make me compromise what I believe in because of what you are. Just because I don't want to support what you're doing doesn't mean that I have to. Like, don't bring your money to me. I'm losing because you're not bringing your money to me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, while I agree with y'all,
My sister.
in this case, this guy's a superintendent of a public school district, so
We talking about the bakery.
Yeah, we
That
can't.
one is something
We talking
different.
about this guy. He got to go.
He got to go.
And not just because of a racist comment. I say this all the time. If people in authority over children show poor judgment,
Oh yeah, I
you
agree.
may not need to have that job. Not just
Kind of like a Bert
not-
Kavanaugh situation, right?
Exactly.
Damon.
Not just because you said something that was offensive to me, because
Yeah.
it may not have been
you say my
offensive to
name?
me. But if you just show bad judgment, I'm going to question how you're going to do things when it comes to the safety and welfare of children.
Agreed. But you know who's making good judgment calls?
Me.
Not you.
Damn.
And not anybody that looks like you. But LeBron James is set to have Ryan Coogler produce the new Space Jam sequel.
I heard about that.
I'm excited. Like, first of all, Ryan Coogler is the same guy who made Black Panther, same guy who put out Fruitvale Station.
Yeah.
I mean, he has now a Creed. He has a history now of making very, very quality black productions. Let me not even say black
Productions,
productions.
right.
Let me not
Productions.
say black productions.
Billion-dollar
Productions. $billion productions. And so Space Jam is like one of my all-time favorite childhood movies. I know most of the songs on it. You got
Sing one.
what? Everybody move up! It's time to jam now. We got a real jam. But
Quad
anyway,
City DJs.
He actually studied before somebody said that.
you know what I'm
He
saying?
didn't
I
say
was
gonna
ready.
say
I
it.
was ready, son.
Come
But
on, Brennan.
are we excited about LeBron
Yes.
being in it?
Yes.
Yes.
Why
He's
not?
gonna do a much better job than
Why
Jordan.
not?
This is gonna get
crazy now. I mean,
See, this is why I
Jordan
brought
is
it
a
up.
terrible actor. Don't act like Jordan was good.
no,
in
no,
Jordan.
Jordan is the little Bow Wow of basketball.
LeBron's probably a terrible actor. Also, I'm still excited.
Yeah.
But
Have
LeBron
you
is
seen Trainwreck?
exactly.
He's good in Trainwreck.
He has acting experience though. Let's
So
start there.
let's look at the subliminal. This is his way of saying I can be better than Jordan once again.
So this is
You're not
okay.
gonna
So
do
hold
that.
on.
You're
Let's-
not gonna do
So
that.
can we talk about that?
Yeah.
I have a problem with this. Like, I don't understand why we have to use our ancestors or people that have gone before us as our floors as opposed to our ceilings. You know what I mean? Like, why don't we stand on their shoulders and then, like, wherever they left us off, we grow from there? Like, why we can't be better?
That's why he's making those Space Jam too.
Yeah.
Making
But
Space
that's
Jam.
what I'm saying. Like, we like, oh no, you can't be better than Martin Luther King. Like, Barack was good, but he wasn't better than Martin Luther King.
But to be
like,
truthful, if you stand on somebody's shoulders, they do become your floor because you're on their shoulders.
well, you know what I mean.
Boy,
David.
And so past the ceiling.
What I'm saying is, like, why do we make the people who have gone before us the ceiling? Is what I meant. Why do we make them the ceiling? Like, this is how you can't go.
I don't think we do
You can't
that,
go.
No, with Michael
We-
Jordan,
like,
we
why-
Sir, nobody can be better than Michael Jackson. Nobody can be better than Prince.
No one has shown themselves to be better.
No.
And that's
Even
really
if
perception.
they're working towards it, like, oh no, you can't be.
Well, because we love them.
You're
We
ready to
we
cancel.
idolize
Also,
those
they
people.
just
No
don't.
one,
But that's
no
what
one
I'm
wants their
saying.
idols to be taken out. But
But you're
at
not
some
being
point,
taken out. Like, we're just meeting you where you are.
But at some point, the mantle is changed.
again,
The trophy
though,
is given to the
That's
next
why we
person.
say.
Think
That's why
about
we
this,
say
though.
where we are as a culture. Because like, oh no,
I
ain't
don't
nobody
think
be
it's
better than Big Mama.
I don't think it's that. I
Can't
think
nobody
Who's better
fight
than
chicken like
Michael
Big
right now
Mama.
to you? Who's better than Michael Jackson right now?
Beyonce.
She is.
Bruno Mars.
I'll have to say that
Beyonce, bro.
Dude, I just went to the
Beyonce is
concert.
bigger than Michael. Bro.
That
I'm
thing
sorry.
was
I have
amazing.
not seen anybody yet faint when they saw Beyonce from 1,000 yards away. But like, oh my God, I am in the immediate vicinity
So let's
of
put,
Beyonce.
it, let's put it into
Swoon.
let's put it
No
into,
one has done
let's
that
put it
yet.
into perspective. I went to the concert the last week. It was
so
a
that's why we got a
flawless.
beehive
Hold
right
on,
here.
I'm not even a beehive. I love Jay. I mean, I'm cool with Beyonce, but I love Jay-Z, so I really went to see Jay-Z. The concert
You're the
was
only one.
seamless.
I'm
When
not
I
saying
say
she's not great.
When I'm not even talking about her. I'm saying to have a production where your camera people,
Correct.
your backup dancer,
Correct.
your stage crew,
She's awesome.
Nobody missed a beat. Like, that's amazing.
She's awesome,
And I
but she
think
has
that-
not eclipsed him yet.
Why?
First,
Why not?
first of all, she hasn't been in the
Are we
business
talking
as
about
long as
record
she's
sales?
been in.
We're talking about
So
record
let's talk about what she's done in the time that she's been in
Beyonce
business
wants to eclipse
in
him.
She
comparison to
might.
where he's been in.
I'm
in
not
business.
saying.
We're talking
Let me be clear.
trajectory.
I'm not saying that Beyonce will not or she may not. I'm saying that Beyonce has yet to.
Let's
do
talk
it.
about what she's done in the amount of time that she's been in the business in comparison to the amount of years that he was in the business.
Oh man, it's dense.
And it's time.
I don't know.
What you talking about? You talking about Michael at 5 years
5
old?
years old.
Michael has never had not been the shit.
I'm not saying that he
Like,
wasn't
Michael
great.
was a 5-year-old baby maker. Like back, like come on now.
I'm
Michael
not saying
is-
that he wasn't great. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying a lot of people discredit the work that she does with the group that she does.
I'm not discrediting it. That's what I'm saying.
Like Michael Jackson, I mean, of course, back then that was normal. But this girl does projects with like thousands of people with no leaks.
okay.
So did Michael. So she did.
That's what I'm
What,
saying.
she did what Michael did.
It was
And she's
different
doing
because there was no internet.
Man,
I'm talking about in the age of internet.
And the fact that people all around the world knew Michael without the internet should tell you something.
That's true. Also,
Yeah.
there was no.
But-
And
Yeah,
I'm not
statue in
discrediting.
Russia.
I'm not discrediting what he
You
did.
had
A black
you
man had
had
a statue in Russia. Let's.
you had Rwandan refugees talking about, oh my goodness, Michael is coming.
Yeah.
Like
Punitive.
the fact that there are still people that don't know Beyonce. I think I've heard of her name.
Where you find me somebody. You find me somebody. Find me somebody.
You made that shit up.
Find me somebody.
They gonna learn today, right now.
But
Beyonce to the
let
rescue.
me just throw one thing in there. Music, pop culture, athletics, all this stuff is time and place too. Because if you're 12 years old today, Beyonce is your Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
Nobody can tell you if you were born after Michael died, your parents are gonna try to tell you he was the greatest thing ever. Look at these videos, the Moonwalk, Motown 25. You're not gonna feel any of that. Just like if I'm growing up, when I was out on the court playing basketball, I was pre Michael Jordan. So Magic Johnson is my everything. If you ask me who my favorite player is, who's the best to ever do it, I'm gonna say Kareem and Magic. Right? I know how great Michael is.
Kareem is the best. He has the more.
I think Kareem is the best.
Stats are not the only metric for
If you
greatness.
put it in, we'll have this. We can have that conversation.
That's the team.
Not
That's
just
just the team
rings and
accolade.
stats. Now, what are we talking
Rings.
about?
Teams. That's a team.
He has
Then what about
rings.
stats? What about stats? He has
He
stats
has
and
many
rings.
rings.
Stats
He has
also-
better stats.
So hold on,
yeah,
y'all
wait,
hold on,
shoe
y'all arguing
sales,
about
jersey sales?
y'all arguing
But-
about stuff that don't even matter at this point.
It's time. It's also time and place. So when you talk about somebody being greater than somebody else, what this generation thinks, because for many people, the Beyoncés and the LeBron James, and one thing about LeBron making Space Jam 2, for my nieces and nephews and grandchildren, that's their Space Jam because they never saw Michael play. They didn't watch him do the things he did. They're going to say the same thing about LeBron, and then 20 years later, their kids are going to say it about somebody else.
Well, one thing that's really, really interesting about this is that LeBron James is taking on the EP role, the executive producer role in this, and he is variably like creating a whole new platform of business for himself, following the footsteps of Michael Jordan and others before him in terms of creating his own business. Tristan, how important is it in today's era to transfer from being a high-level employee to a business owner?
Perfect example. I graduated college, worked for a company called Liberty Mutual, started there as an intern, was a high-level employee, was blessed to receive National Rookie of the Year, Regional Rookie of the Year, top producer, and then parlayed that experience that I got from the corporate dime to start my own business and my own State Farm insurance agency. So it's very important to take the opportunity that you have and the capital that you gain from someone else and leverage it for a better opportunity for you, your family, and your legacy.
And LA, you've got a business. And I want you to talk about that business and how hard was it to like get started with your business? Tell us what it is, Tell us how long you've been in that industry and in your personal business, and how hard was it for you to get there?
Cool. So I've actually been in business for, I guess, since 2007, so almost 12 years. I'm the owner of E.W. Treats in Crumville, Texas Bakery, which is located 2316 Elgin. And I actually started baking because my two sons came home. They had signed up to bring treats to school for a holiday party. And I was going through a financial hardship, so I did not have the money to buy them treats. But I have flour, butter, sugar, and eggs at home. So I pulled up a recipe, made them some chocolate chip cookies, took the rest of the cookies home. I'm sorry, to my job, which was AT&T or South Central at the time. My coworkers loved them. And so they started asking me to make them for office parties and potlucks. And so I did. But after 6 months of baking chocolate chip cookies, I got bored and started experimenting with different flavors. And I don't really have the metabolism to eat cookies just because I bake them. So I started inviting friends over to eat the treats. And I literally gave treats away for 3 years before I made it a business.
Did you bring samples?
I did.
So,
I did.
Rod, I'm glad you asked that question. Go ahead and pop out these samples as I ask you the next question.
So I specialize in cookies, brownies, and stuffed cups. Stuffed cups are my signature cupcakes. They're cupcakes that have one of my cookies baked on the inside. But
Is that what you brought us?
yeah, I brought stuffed cups and I brought
Run me those cookies, man.
Taking me through-
I don't understand why it took you so long.
Somebody rewind this stuff cupcake again. Now, what's on the
So they're cupcakes with one of my cookies baked on the inside. So that's what I'm known for. Yeah.
Crumville, Texas Bakery.
Why are we
So
waiting?
Label in front there.
So why you pulling that out?
So, like I said, I've been in business I started in 2007. I was actually still working in corporate America at the time. I worked for AT&T. It was Southwest and Bell when I started working for there. I worked there for 15 years. And actually this Friday will be my 6-year anniversary that I left my job to bake full time.
Congratulations.
And it's been hard. Like I tell people all the time, because a lot of people come in and, they want to know about the journey to entrepreneurship. And I started in an age before like Instagram. Facebook was pretty new. It's just a lot of hard work. And thankfully I had friends who are willing to like be guinea pigs and taste treats. I didn't spend yes. Oh, you want to taste treats?
I'm one of your friends. Also.
I didn't really spend a lot of money on like packaging and stuff like that up front because I didn't have the money to do it. So most of my money was spent on ingredients. My goal was to have a quality product and make sure that I had something that was good to and good for people. And that's where I started. So
While you're doing that, Tristan, I'll ask you what steps should be taken in starting up a business. Like if I'm trying to start off square one, what are the major steps that need to be taken?
Right. Great question. So there's a lot of different opinions on there. Start with a business plan, get funding, have an existing product. My favorite aspect of starting a business is the SWOT analysis. So it's SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat challenge or test. So what are your strengths? The fact that you have a cupcake with a cookie built in, that is a strength.
Solid.
Solid.
She's the strongest person in this room right
That's
now.
flexing on the gram strong. Okay, what are your weaknesses? So are the opportunity that products or inventory or ingredients cost is going to go up? Are there going to be 1,000 other bakers coming on the scene now?
There are.
Opportunities. The fact that you have a unique product. What's your unique selling proposition? What separates you from the 1,000 other bakers out there? And then the threats. So what can make your business go down? What can stop your revenue and your cash flow? So do that first. And once you have something that you feel comfortable risking your financial situation on, your family on, and go forward with it. Once you find peace with it. So that's my favorite aspect of the startup part. Do a SWOT analysis, and then once you have that data, you can go forward with it.
The SWOT
Is that market analysis?
No, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Oh.
He just said
That's
this,
part
man.
of it.
I looked away, man. That's why I
So Tristan, please make sure at the end of the show we're going to ask you later on to put that on the website, that SWOT analysis for us. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you weren't able to catch it all, Tristan is going to do us the solid of making sure that information is readily available on intelligence at www.genspodcast.com. So, moving right along on this, so funding. Like, how hard is it I've never had a business before. I don't know. It's going to cost me the startup alone is going to cost me anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 to get it. I've never had more than $1,000 in my bank account at any one time. How in the world can I possibly start a business that takes so much on the front end?
Yeah.
So, on my podcast, I just had a commercial banker tell us that most banks don't have an appetite for startups. They want to see an existing business with projections and already some proven results going. So, it's really a matter of saving your personal capital, borrowing from family and friends, and utilizing your own debt and things of that nature. Bootstrapping is what they call it. Because honestly, if you go to a legitimate bank that says, hey, I want to start a business, most likely going to say no. Then if you go to the lower tier lenders, they're going to say, all right, we'll give you this money, but it's probably going to be at a 20 and 30% interest rate. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or you can get money from your merchant services like PayPal and etc. And they'll say, we'll take 20% off the top of every transaction that comes in through the credit card machine. Yeah. So it's a challenge.
So what do you think is the best avenue to take for a startup trying to find funding?
So everyone's situation is different. So it depends on what your needs are. You may need to save money and invest in yourself before you start. Before the cliche of jump off the ridge and build your wings on the way down. Yeah. You may need to have that nest already ready for you.
Okay.
See, I wasn't like that. I was working at a corporate job. Mm-hmm. I was doing both, literally waking up in the morning, baking treats, delivering on my lunch break. And I didn't really plan to have this as a full-time job. And I literally said, God, give me a year and I'll leave my job. My kids were younger then, and I said, just give me a year to stack. Mm-hmm. And I'll leave my job. Yeah. That was on a weekend at church. That Monday I go into work. They call us into a meeting. They're doing voluntary severances. It's like, you want to leave? We got a package for you. Let us know by Friday. Wow. So everybody thought, since I've been doing this for 7 years, both, that, oh yeah, Ella's going to leave. Friday comes, I'm scared shitless. And I'm like, I can't do this. My kids are little. Like, who's going to feed them? I turned it down. Mm. That weekend I got sick, like physically sick. And I never get sick. And I literally heard this voice that said, trust me, I'm your stack. And I was like, come on, God, don't do your girl like that. I got these kids. He was like, trust me, I'm your stack. I go into work that next Monday and I said, hey, I changed my mind. I want to leave. Mm-hmm. My boss was like, I'm sorry. This is a union company. And the union said, if we allow you to change your mind, we have to open it back up to the whole company for them to change their mind. So we're sorry, we can't do it.
Wow. Do you think there's a should we be focused more on online businesses, or should we still be thinking about brick and mortars?
We should be focused on doing the work before you do anything. My brick and mortar next month will be 2 years that it's been open, but for 10 years I was a Master P of baked goods. I sold treats out of my trunk for 10 years. Online sales, pop-up shops, deliveries. I was at every concert. I was at every art exhibit. I was at most salons, boutiques. I did the work. So I built, before I even opened up a brick and mortar, I had a pretty decent clientele. So some people want to skip the work. They want to start an Instagram page. They want to start a Facebook page. And they all of a sudden they have a business. But it's more than having a page. It's more than having thousands of, I really don't have a lot of, I probably have like maybe 6,000 followers. I really don't have a lot of followers. It's more about doing the work and focusing on your product and your ingredient, your customer service. Like, I'll go out on a limb and say my customer service is unmatched. When you walk in my store, every single customer that comes in my store, I hug you. I'm telling you about all the products. Every time you, it doesn't matter if it's your first time here, your second time here, your 200th time here. You're going to feel like it's your first time there. You're never going to get a stale product. All of my ingredients are always going to be fresh. That's my main goal. If you can look at this now, my packaging is super simple. A self-sealed package with a little label on it. I don't spend a lot of money on that. But you're going to taste a quality product when you get my treat. And that's what you have to do. Do the work. It's no way around doing the work. Do the work and trust God for the rest.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if I even want to come in for the food. I just might want to come in for the hug.
You might, and it kind of get creepy sometimes because people leave and text me like, "Hey, like, what's up? Did I not spend enough money? Why I ain't get a hug?" And I was like, "No, it's just that I had like 5 other customers."
So Crystal says you have a DJ. Is that true?
I have a DJ every Sunday, so it's called the Real Chill Sweet Lounge. On Sundays, I have happy hour. The treats are only $4. There's a DJ Real Chill. DJs from 3 to 6 every single Sunday. And it's just like a cool little kickback, laid-back vibe. I'm open Wednesday through Sunday. Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 6. Sundays, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. I have a few cookies that are inspired by pop culture. Like I have a Cookie Minaj. I have a Cold World because I'm absolutely obsessed with J. Cole. Anybody knows me knows I love that. I have a Chance of Cookie.
I mean, I like
have a
anything that
Netflix
starts
and chill
with Minaj.
cookie. Yeah, so
it is what it is. So Minaj and cookie, Minaj,
That's
whatever.
a chill cookie. That's
and I also have samples every day on my counter. Almost every cookie that's available for sale, you can sample it before you try it. So.
Okay. I mean, you just sold it. So let me ask one last question before I move over to Tristan real quick. If I come in for a hug and then I leave and come right back in, do I get another hug?
You do.
That's all I need to know. Tristan.
But it's going to be a church hug that second time around.
That's okay. Church hugs can last.
Church hugs to the side.
So,
It's to the side. Like, you can't get 2 frontal hugs back
That's
to
not a
back.
church hug, man. Church hug is all right in the heart.
that's right.
No. What church you go to?
The Church of Hugs.
Let's go to that bedside Baptist.
So Christian side hug.
So Tristan,
Yes, sir.
I want it all.
we're talking about funding small businesses. Why does it seem that minorities have a lot of trouble accessing funds and getting businesses sustainable? So accessing funds and sustainability.
Kind of a loaded question, but let's go for it. I would say there's certain impasses with, let's say, credit. And also, on the second aspect of that is training and experience and exposure. Right?
Okay.
So we may not have exposure to see how a successful or efficient business or professional with high level of customer service is run. So, there's a misnomer in the community that African American businesses always have bad service. I think people like us are out to dispel them and that rumor, but at the same time, there's a lot of lack of exposure and experience and training for that as far as that part. And as far as the funding, it's not just African American though. A lot of people have trouble with funding. So that's why there are people like Lyft and other organizations that will give you those short-term loans or things like that, lines of credit, but for a higher interest rate.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question. You guys find as black business owners that black people tend to want to hook up, like come to you for deals, or do you find like
I just don't create that kind of vibe in my space. You know what I mean? Like people come in, and a lot of my customers have literally been with me since I started selling out of my trunk. So they've like seen the journey and they just want to support me. Yeah. Now some people kind of come in, I won't even say some. I have a few people that'll come in and they'll be like, I only got $4. And I was like, and I just tell them, I was like, dude.
At a brick and mortar?
What?
Because I think that's going to Damon's point. A lot
You're
of
not
going to
go to Walmart and bring a basket full of groceries and get to the counter and be like, yeah, I only got $30. That's not going to happen.
Because I don't see that really happening.
It very rarely happens. It very, very rarely happens. But I get more stuff like people like, oh my god, like, so my cupcakes, as you can see, they're not like a regular small cupcake. It's a muffin size, and it has a cookie base. I was like, oh my god, it's $5.50 for a cupcake, and they don't think about like this is not like a factory made cupcake. I make my batches in small batch. I don't have a staff. It's me, so I'm getting the ingredients. I'm mixing this up. I'm baking this up. I'm packaging this up. I'm labeling stuff. Like that's time and effort. But like I said, very, 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 very few people, maybe once every blue moon, say something about that. But the majority of my customers, they come in, they're happy to spend money. They're repeat customers. They don't have any problem paying what I charge for the treats. And I have probably a 50-50 customer base for African American and non-African American. And it's the same. Like people want to come in, they want to support the business. And I really don't get a lot of, like people come in, it's like, somebody came the other day, two black people come in here. I was like, yeah, they come here.
Well, so when I was in private practice, and I'm not in anymore, I have my own business, I often heard like, people would want a white lawyer, and they would be willing to pay more for a whiter lawyer, or, and when I had some black clients, they did want to hook up, and so I was just curious, was that just in the legal profession? Like, it was just as a lawyer that people came and did that, or is it just across the board for every business that like you have the issue?
So I've been in insurance and financial services for 14 years. I've sold to all nationalities. And as of lately, I've been seeing the misnomer only African Americans want to hook up. I get asked every day, is this the best that you can do?
Yeah.
Is this the lowest rate? Is there not another discount you can apply?
Yeah.
So even myself, my mom taught me closed mouths don't get fed.
Right.
So I can go to Almeida and I will go to the Galleria. Can I get your employee discount? Is there any coupons I have available? So it doesn't matter the color of the business, whatever. I'm always trying to get the best value I can.
Yeah.
So when people do that to me, I'm not necessarily mad.
Yeah.
But I've been seeing that a lot on social media. Why black people always want to hook up? I think everybody should be entitled
A
to try to find
hookup
the
and
best
an
deal.
available discount is something completely different.
Okay.
That's something.
a valid
That's
point. That's a
something
valid point.
completely different. And to know if there is a discount available to me, as opposed to, hey, you know, come on, homie, you know, sis, you know, can I get this
Okay,
for?
that's
That's two completely different things. And I think it's a valid question to ask if somebody has available discounts. That's not I'm not offended by that.
Because I do that all the time.
Maybe we just use the wrong terminology.
And I know I've hung out with Brennan. I remember one time he and I went to lunch, and he got the waiter at this restaurant to give us the employee discount for no reason. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I always ask for discounts no matter where we go. But I do remember when I was in business, I would always, I'm not saying it felt like that, but I know I competed against other people. So
Probably wouldn't cost you to a certain level. That people
Yeah, and I was about to say it's probably different in asking
charge
for
a little more
employees
than $6
discount for
cookies.
somebody that has a corporation, multiple locations, than a small mom and pop shop. So,
Well, so Tristan, there's some in terms of investing. Let's talk about that real quick. Investing, like should we be more into? You know, we've seen athletes are starting to do it now. They get with these venture capitalist firms, and then they are able to diversify their portfolios using outside source funding to go out and basically capitalize on other people's products. Black people don't really do a lot of the investment capital fundraising for ourselves. What should we be looking at doing in terms of differentiating our streams of income other than the traditional go create our own company and go make money?
Look for viable opportunities. So let's look at Nas as an example. Rapper, right? Nas has invested in Bevel, the African American shaving
I use that. I
tool.
used to at least.
Yeah. He also invested in Ring and got a serious bag from the Ring, the doorbell.
He's one of those also.
Yes, exactly. So Nas got a lot of your money.
Yes, he did.
But so we have to look at opportunities where we don't just put all of our eggs in one basket. So I have one stream. Once we get one stream of income stabilized, let's look and see how
multiple
we can flip
streams of
that
income. Yeah.
and multiply that in something that is space where we don't have to be heavily involved, right? Passive income. So maybe I can cut a check to someone and say, hey, I'll invest 5, 10, 15,000 in your business. I just need a certain percentage of profits every month. And I don't have to come in here and work in bacon or sell insurance, et cetera. So we have to diversify our mentality and have a paradigm shift that we don't only have to be self-employed, but we can also be entrepreneurs that invest and have multiple streams of income.
Okay. And last question for you guys. Is there something that you think that every minority potential business owner should know as they go into the business, whatever that business may be? Ella, my Bella.
I think the first thing that I would say is to network side to side and not up. A lot of people think that their gold mine is to get their product to Oprah or get it to Tyler Perry, get it to Barack Obama. But in actuality, that's not the person that's gonna really on a regular basis fund your business. It's more likely that your friends and coworkers and family's coworkers and friends are going to be the ones that support you. I didn't have investors. I haven't had investors. Like, my friends have invested in me in different ways. Even if it was like me sleeping on their couch for 9 months till I was able to get my own place again. So I would say network side to side. Absolutely. Okay. There's always ways for your friends to create opportunities for you and with you, and bank on that.
Tristan.
So my specialty is social media advertising, specifically Facebook ads. And in our community, we are missing a huge opportunity by not advertising on Facebook and Instagram. It is one of these top ways to get in front of your target market. If you want to go to askuniversity.com, you can. But one of the ways that our counterparts are taking advantage of this platform is the fact that you can target people, and I think I heard y'all talking about this earlier, based on what's in your profile, right? So if she wanted to reach African American females that graduated from A&M and have one kid driving Ford, living in a $250,000 house, and like vegan cookies, she can run ads only to that demographic, and only those people will see that based on their profile information, their interest, and their behavior. And so that is my mission that I've tasked by myself, is to educate the African American entrepreneur community to use social media to get awareness. It's just another form of advertising, so it's not going to be a silver bullet, but it's one of the top ways to find your target market and make them aware that you exist and create that opportunity to attract and convert your clientele.
All right, now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentlemen, it's been great having you on the show.
Hold it down for you ladies.
You know, already, all day, son.
For the big eyes.
Daughters.
You know? One thing I want to do before we go is we have to talk about our black magic. Our black magic for the day is one Mr. Silas Adekunle. He's a British Nigerian entrepreneur. He has created a multi-million-dollar deal with Apple for his robotics called Mechamons. These are battle bots. They are selling at, I think, about 300 pounds. They are phenomenal in the way they move. Their animation effects, so everything. But this guy, this young, to be on his way to being one of the top paid tech guys in the industry, I mean, hats off to you, Mr. Adekunle. We salute you and call you our Black Magic of the Day. Last thing I'm going to do before we leave is I'm going to take a look at this
Don't you work for Sky?
sweet potato butter pecan crunch.
Stuffed cup.
This is, I don't know if I can get a good look at this, but I want y'all to see. Look at all that buttery goodness right there. Dana, can you please
mine
move,
is bigger.
sir?
I'm just saying mine is bigger.
Can you please move?
And it's more chocolate. Yours is kind this is chocolate.
You sound ridiculous. So I'm going to take a bite of this real quick,
Oh yeah.
so the viewers can see.
Live and
This-
real effect.
I don't trust it.
Let me say this one more time. This is
Seriously. Look at that.
sweet potato, not potato.
Yeah.
Sweet potato, butter pecan crunch. Y'all ready for this?
No, we ain't watching this.
Y'all jealous, huh? See what we do?
Same thing while you do it.
You like to tease them a little bit.
That's just a cupcake. You gotta get down to the cookie.
Oh, I gotta dig deep.
You gotta go
You
deep.
gotta get down to the cookie.
I've never had a problem with going
You
deep.
gotta get down to the cookie.
Let's see. We're gonna get some of this cookie back here. That's exactly what she said.
I mean, that's the truth. She told him get down.
Here we
You
go.
still didn't get it.
Listen,
Still didn't get it. That's what she said.
You're not
Still
quite
didn't get
getting
it.
the cookie right.
listen. The
you
vegan, what is this?
You can't reach down deep.
He said you can't
look,
get
The
it.
vegan
I
Oreo.
don't like to make a mess
Like that.
in public.
Oh.
I try to be a classy brother. Oh, that's a little bit of that cookie.
Yeah,
You see
that's
the
a little
difference? Y'all see I don't know if y'all can tell the difference between this, but this is a lot. Mouth is watering just looking at this thing right now. Hold on one second, y'all. Oh my god.
Mouthful of cream. You know you like it.
It's like a mouthgasm. Y'all go out to see Ella.
Right.
And what's the name of it again?
It's Crumville, Texas.
Crumville, Texas.
Located in the heart of 3rd Ward, Texas. 2316 Elgin. Right underneath the historic El Dorado Ballroom, across the street from Emancipation Park.
All right, Tristan, if they want to find you, see you, talk to you about some things, where do they need to go?
Absolutely. Go to the website, TristanSuttonConsulting.com, TristanSutton Consulting.com, or follow me on Facebook. You can go to the Tristan E. Sutton Facebook page.
All right, now, and ladies and gentlemen, you will be able to find all this information on our Facebook page and on our website, www.gentspodcast.com. You can go over to our Instagram, Gents Podcasting. And also, if you want to, I don't know what Damon is doing over here with these eyebrow looks he's giving. But
It's because he ate
if
that
you-
Cookie Minaj.
Is that what happened? If you want to go to our YouTube channel and
I eat
subscribe,
crap, man.
can y'all shut up? Shut up. Shut up. Just eat for a second. If y'all want to go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we need to get more viewers so we can have it as a dedicated channel, just go over to our website and then click on the YouTube link. We are excited to have you again, Tristan and Ella, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
It has been a pleasure, and we hope to see you soon. Again, that is our time on intelligence, bringing you knowledge with the power to change. We'll see you next week.
That's great.
These,
Oh.
yo, this,
Thanks,
right